Welcome to the Church of God Network podcast. I'm Chantal Reynolds, and I'm with my lovely friend, Kelli Hogg. I'm so excited to have her on this podcast. I have been dying to talk with her for months about this, and so glad we finally got our schedule put together so we can make this happen. And so Kelli, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the reason why we're having this conversation.
Well, hello, Chantal. Always love to see you, even if it's electronically. As you said, my name is Kelli Hogg. I'm from East Texas. I attend the East Texas COG congregation. I grew up in the church. I lived in East Texas till I was 14, and I attended Worldwide. Then we moved to Dallas and attended Worldwide up until I was a senior in high school. And then I started attending United. And then I have bounced around. I have been to Houston. I've been to Dallas. I've been all around different congregations. And now I'm back in East Texas. Worldwide split in 1995, and I was a senior in high school. Mm-hmm. So it was a very tumultuous time for me. But I vivid memories of growing up in Worldwide. And I lived probably about, I would say 20 miles from Ambassador and Big Sandy. And so it was a very normal thing for us to always spend the weekends over at the college. And that's where all of my practices were, our tournaments were. I mean, every activity we had really was over at the college. So I have lots of memories of Ambassador and growing up in Worldwide. And then when I moved to Dallas, it's so different the way that the church is now. But our congregation was huge. Dallas had Dallas North, Dallas East, Dallas West, Dallas South, and then there's Fort Worth East and Fort Worth West. So when we combined for Holy Days, that was a feast. Like they would rent out a convention center in Dallas or Grapevine or Fort Worth. I remember one year Mr. Tkach came to speak, and we rented out Fort Worth Convention Center.
Wow.
So lots of memories there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember when we've had conversations before, you discussed kind of like the camp program way back in the time of Worldwide, and like how that just had a huge impact on you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I attended my first camp at SCP in Orem, Minnesota in 1991, and I was a freshman in high school. And back then, kind of differing from the camp programs of all the COGs today, is that one, you had to apply and you did not get accepted, and you had to wait for a letter to come in the mail telling you that you were accepted. And then also you would stay for 3 weeks. But I remember the first time I went, it was a big deal because that was the longest I had been away from home. I was 14. I'm going to get emotional, but it was the best 3 weeks of my entire life. And I just knew like the next summer I had to go back. So I applied, got to go back again. And it's funny because I'm now much older, but I'm still in contact with my 2 camp counselors from both years. Wow. I see one regularly, and then the other one, we're friends on Facebook, and the impact that they made on me, and even just different staff members. I see, like my canoeing instructor and, his wife, and just different people that I remember that I met at SCP as a teenager. I'm still friends with them. I'm now friends with their kids. And so it was an amazing impact on me. And then I was not accepted for my junior year, which was heartbreaking to me. Aww. But God works things out for you the way that they're supposed to be. And then when I turned 18 in May of 1995, and by that time we had already stopped attending Worldwide. So I didn't get to go as my senior year, but that is when I began my staff career at camp with the United Camp Program. And I served as a counselor when I was 18. And that was anyone who was at that camp, Camp Roosevelt, it was such a memorable camp. And I'm still friends with campers and staff members that I met back then. So I think the camp program is so important for building those lifelong bonds. Sometimes when you're a teenager, you're learning lessons at church, you're learning things, but you're learning from your friends as
Hmm.
well. And that's why I believe it is so important to surround yourself with the right people, with good people who are going in the same direction you want to go, because their influence is going to be huge on your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. So, what was it about the camp program for you growing up that was so impactful? Like, what were some of the key things that you can remember that, uh, like, that got you so emotional when you were just talking about it?
I think, when you're with people and like kids today, they build incredible bonds in 1 week.
Hmm.
Multiply that by 3 weeks.
Yeah.
By the time you left camp for those three, that was your family. Like those girls were your family. And you just learn so many lessons because and you were in a dorm with, 23 other girls. You may not like them, and you come from all different backgrounds. You're not from the same region. You're not from, the same cultural area. I mean, there were people from Texas, from California, from New York. Like you have all these different cultures that come in too. So that was fun, meeting people and getting to know different people, and then finding out what works and how to become a team.
Hmm.
And hopefully, you have the 3 weeks to do that. But like I still remember one of the sermons that was given my first year at SEP. Like this is 1991. This is, not yesterday. And I'll never forget it. He got up there, and I love it when ministers, they really speak to kids and they really try to figure out like what they're going through. And when you're at SEP, you're experiencing all these different things, and you're trying, like I was trying water polo and windsurfing, things that I had never tried before. And sometimes when you have new experiences, you don't always jump headfirst into them. It's a little scary.
Hmm.
And maybe it doesn't always go well. Maybe when you're out water skiing, you don't get up on the first time, and you have all your whole dorm watching you, and that's embarrassing. And but the minister got up there and he talked about how any situation you were in, you look at it and you go, that's good because,
Hmm.
and you find a reason that any situation you're in, there's something good in that. God is teaching you something in that situation. And I really took that back to my dorm, and like the rest of the time at camp, anytime something went wrong, oh, that's good because, well,
Hmm.
okay, I didn't get up this time. Well, that, I'm showing others, that to keep trying, to keep trying. And then when you finally do get up, then it's like, um, you just feel such a sense of accomplishment, and you're so glad that you didn't give up. And then the second year I went, I've told this story before. I've told this story in front of a large group of people at our event, but I will tell it again. Um, I had been to camp the previous year, so I thought, okay, I'm going back to SEP. I know exactly how this goes. And there is this canoe program, and I know myself, and I am not going to carry a canoe. There is a canoe trip that does not carry the canoe. That's the one I want to go in. So I march right up to my counselor on day one, and I'm like, look, I am not a portager. Okay. I know me. I'm not a portager. I want to go on the Voyager. That's the big canoe. I'm good. Stroke and feather,
Hmm.
yes, I'm good at that. I'm not going to carry a canoe. Well, you know which canoe trip she put me on. And I was so upset. So upset. Did I remember that's good because no, that was long gone. Okay. Because I'm like, I was so worried I could not do it.
Yeah.
And then the very first day, the girl that I was carrying a canoe with, she fell and sprained her ankle.
Oh.
So that's me in a canoe, and I had to carry her pack. And I was just in the worst attitude. And I will admit it, I was in the worst attitude. And that night, and I'm going to call him out because he's such a great man, Joel Cox came to me and he said, Kelli, here's the deal. We're out here for a week. So you can either be miserable for a week and you can bring down everyone around you, or you can say, hey, I got this. And you can be a leader and you can show everybody else that they can do this.
Hmm.
And I remember I just didn't think I could. I'm like, oh, I'm glad you're so confident about it, but I don't think I can do it. He goes, you can do it. I watched you do it today.
Hmm.
And it was like a moment, it's like, and that's why I think camp is so important, because you really have those moments where you learn about yourself when
Mhm.
you're away from home. You're away from like your normal environment. You're even away from your family. You have those moments to learn about yourself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, okay. So the next day I'm like, all right, I can do it. And I did it. And I
Mm.
did it every day for the rest of the trip. And when I got back to camp and back to my counselor, I was like, you knew exactly what you were doing. And she was like, yeah, I did. She was like, because I saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. I
Mm.
knew that you could do it. And I was so grateful. And we still we joke about that to this day. I'm so grateful that she did that to me. But camp just provides so many different experiences. And it's not about canoeing. It had
Mhm.
nothing to do with canoeing. It was believing that I could do it. And then, letting others support me and help me around me.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something so incredible about the mentorship process that happens in camp that I
Mhm.
think is why, in so many ways, is so powerful because you're developing relationships. You're put in these really difficult positions, and people who are a little bit older, more mature, have the opportunity to really step into your life in those moments. And I just love. I don't know if it's something that you can necessarily emulate in your like everyday life, but I do think it's such a powerful testament to the need for that, and trying to implement that in everyday life if you have the opportunity to. But like, oh, camp is the best.
Well, probably about 5 years ago at camp, I had ran into a situation with a camper,
Mm-hmm.
and he was with his dorm, and I was taking photos at camp. And so I was walking around to all the different activities, and he had climbed to the top of the pamper pole. And that's that telephone pole, and you're standing on top of it, and it's not even wide enough for your feet. Okay, especially this 14-year-old boy. Your toes are hanging off the edge, and then there's people on the ground who are like, jump, you can do it, jump out, grab that bar. And he was terrified,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely terrified. And of course, his dorm was down there, and they're ready to go to lunch, and he was up there for quite some time. Um, and I remember I went over underneath him, and I just looked up at him, and I started calling out to his name, and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to jump. We can do this next year. We can do this next year. It's okay. Because I think he was like in a position where he was like, no, I have to do it. But I
Mm-hmm.
said, it's okay. Climb back down. We'll try it again next year.
Yeah.
Um, and so he did. He came back down, and, I gave him a hug, and I was like, it's okay. And I was like, you've got this next year. You've totally got this. And I was like, you couldn't see it. Like, you were so close. You were so
Mm-hmm.
close. But like from my perspective. And so I'm pointing up there and everything. And so the next year at camp, I wasn't able to go to camp, but I had reached out to him, and I was like, hey, just want to let you know, when you go to ropes, I'm going to be cheering you on. And then that night, his counselor FaceTimed me, and I was kind of caught off guard, and I answered it, and it was this camper, which
Oh,
I don't know if I should be telling people that his counselor let him FaceTime me.
that's so
But
sweet.
he FaceTimed me. He's like, Miss Kelly, I did it. And I don't think I've ever been so proud of anybody at camp before, but that's
Mm-hmm.
really what it is all about. It's like letting other people, they can see things in you that you can't see in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different perspective.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that's just one little thing that camp offers that's
Mm-hmm.
um, just so important in a young person's life.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And with that in mind, I mean, obviously you're extremely passionate about the subject, which led you to create this amazing event called the Boot Scoot. And so tell me a little bit about that. What, like, the internal machinations that started this whole thing from the very beginning.
So I'm trying to think of what year it was. I think it was 2005. I worked for a nonprofit in Dallas, and I was in charge of coordinating one of their annual events, one of their annual fundraisers. And I was part of my job was to hire a band,
Mm-hmm.
and I never hired a band before, but I knew a band. from church. They had performed at all of our spring dances, and then my family had actually used them for like my graduation parties and things like that, and we loved them. So I was like, oh, well, what about this band? And so they sent a demo CD, and we're like, yeah, our board voted on it. Let's hire them. They sound great. But it's all church members. Mm-hmm. So because this is my event and it's my job, I told my parents, you have to come. I need you to come support me. So they actually got together with a couple of other parents from members in the band, and they bought tickets to our fundraiser, and they came while they were having dinner. And it's like, it's, a barbecue dinner, and it's a silent auction. And it's just music and just fun, just, a good time. My mom said, well, I don't know why we can't do this for church. Mm-hmm. Like, why would we have this kind of event for church? So she came to me and she's like, I think you should coordinate this for church. And I was like, well, I don't even know what we would coordinate it for. Well, about that time, at the time we were attending United, and LifeNets was having fundraisers for the education program in Africa. Well, education is as much as I'm passionate about camp, my education is very important to my parents. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, we could have it for LifeNets. So I said, okay. So I'm like, well, we're going to do this on a much, much smaller scale. Mm-hmm. We had a silent auction. We collected auction items, hired the band again. I should say hired. They volunteered to come play. And I think we had 75 people. It basically was like 75 of our friends from church came to this event. But it was so much fun. And it's such a different event than we've ever had at church. So I think that people really, really enjoyed it. Because it's fun bidding on different things. And you would see people like, fighting like on the silent auction, going back and fighting over different fighting. But it was just a really good time. So we're like, well, we're gonna have to do this every year. So we did it the next year, and I think we grew to like 100 people. Mm-hmm. And then I'm trying to think it was either year 3 or year 4 that we shifted gears. And I told my parents, okay, we've had it for the education program. Let's do it for the camp program now. So we started doing that for the COG youth camps. And every year, and we kind of bounced all around the Metroplex because if you've ever coordinated an event or hosted an event, finding a venue with a growing crowd that accompanies dinner and all that stuff, it's a challenge. So we kind of bounced around to different venues. Then we finally landed on the Grapevine Convention Center. Mm-hmm. And that really allowed us to grow. And so this year was actually our 17th year.
Wow.
Yeah. I kind of get confused because COVID, we took 2 years off for COVID. So I kind of get lost on like how many years it's been. But I think this year we had over 400.
Yeah.
So, and I could have easily sold more tickets than that. It's just so many people want to come. And this year, we had people come from 8 different states. Like people flew in from all around the country. And that just means so much to us, to my family, that we're able to host an event where people want to come. They want to contribute. And then I guess it was 2 years ago. Again, COVID kind of throws me off a little bit. I think it was 2 years ago. We had someone contact us and say, hey, I know that the event is for COG youth camps, but I attend another organization. I would like to come. Well, absolutely. Come on. And then more people came and more people came. And this year we had representatives from 7 different COG organizations.
That's awesome.
And to me, I love that more than that there were 400 people from 8 different states. Like, I just love that we have created an event and an environment where everybody feels welcome to come and fellowship and be together and support such a wonderful program. And so we were able to give money. In addition to the COG Youth Camp, we were able to give money to the United Youth Camp Fund and also CGA.
CGA.
Okay. CGA's Youth Camp. Yeah, which COG shares their camp in Texas. We were back to back on the calendar. Yeah. So and CGA does a lot to help the camp facility. So, but it just really meant a lot to us and my family, my parents and I. We love that people feel comfortable in getting together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everyone keeps telling us, "Oh, you need a bigger venue. You need a bigger venue." And so I'm just like, it's just so difficult to find a venue. But today or this year, the facility director, he's like, "Hey, just like we're adding on to the building."
Mm-hmm.
Really? So I know everyone's like, next year we need to go somewhere bigger. But I'm like, no, we got to hold out. I have to hold out with them until they build a bigger building.
Yeah.
And then we can see if it meets our needs.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So break down a little bit what exactly the Boot Scoot is, like what's all entailed in it, I think people can gather it's basically for the camp program, or for camp, but what does it do to help with camp?
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the event so you can see all the different avenues of income.
Mm-hmm.
So first we serve dinner, and we always have it catered by Risky's Barbecue, renowned barbecue. We have beef ribs from downtown Fort Worth in the stockyards. They always so good. And I mean, I have a friend who's not even in the church, any church. Mm-hmm. Who comes just so, and I'm like, you could go to Risky's, right? And he was like, no, he's like, I just like coming to your event. Your event is fun. But that's his thing he does every year. He comes and he has ribs. So we serve dinner, and then we have an open bar. We serve complimentary beer and wine. And we collect tips for that. You don't have to pay for the drinks, but we do collect your tips. Mm-hmm. And then we do not serve dessert, because we have a bake sale. So if you have a little sweet tooth after you eat, you can go spend your money at the bake sale, and we make money there. And then we have a silent auction, and that can get out of control. I think one year we had like 300 items. This year we had like 200, and I was like, okay, this is manageable. And the items can vary from a pair of handcrafted earrings to, last year we had a, 24 kilowatt generator. Mm-hmm. So we have just a variety of items. And then we have different people who make handmade items that they will give us like multiple, like Chris Rochelle, he makes leather bracelets and leather trinkets and keychains and things like that. So he'll give me like 20, and then I put those at what I call the general store, and spend money there. And then I guess last year was the first year we did it. A lot of people said, we really need something for the kids. Mm-hmm. The adults love the silent auction, and we also have a raffle. So that's another way to make money, is a raffle. But the adults love the auction and the raffle, but we really need something for the kids to do. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine, Lindsay Gutierrez, she came up with a kiddie corral, and it's basically like this little miniature carnival for the kids. And so you pay to play. You have to buy tickets to play games, and then you can earn prizes. Mm-hmm. And we have this, I don't know, 8 to 10 different little games they can play, and they love it. The kids absolutely love it. And it last year we were in one room, and then Lindsay's like, I need a bigger room. So I gave her a bigger room. And even this year, it's like, I don't know what we're going to do next year, because it's just, there's so many kids and there's so many games. But so those are all different ways to earn money. Mm-hmm. And then where the money goes, the number one priority for Boot Scoot is the scholarship fund. Mm-hmm. We want to guarantee that there is no kid turned away or who doesn't attend camp because of money. Mm-hmm. Now, each church offers scholarships, and they can offer, I think they offer up to 50%. Sometimes they offer 100%. I think the standard is 50%. And the process is that you apply through your pastor. Your pastor goes to the main camp office, and then that's approved. We want to make sure that fund never goes empty. Mm-hmm. They always have the money for that. And so we've been doing that, and they've been doing, I think for COGWA, it runs between 6,000 and 7,000 for scholarships per year. Mm-hmm. And that is growing because the cost of camps has gone up tremendously since COVID.
Yep.
cost of food and renting the camps and everything. So that number is growing. But then we noticed pretty early on, once the event started growing, started making more money. Okay, after we pay $7,000 for scholarships, we have some money left over. So then we want to make sure that every camp has good equipment for the staff and for the campers. So if they have equipment that is run down, needs to be replaced, we want to help. We want to help cover the cost of that. So the organizations do give each camp a budget. We just like to go above and beyond. We want to make sure that they have the best camp experience every summer and that they have everything that they need. And so this year we were able to donate to CGA for their facility fund, and then the United Scholarship Fund. And then we'll give money to the COG Scholarship Fund, but also I had a special project this year, which I'm super passionate about, is that we raise money for journaling Bibles. Last year, I taught a class at Camp Athens, the Texas teen camp for COG, and it went over so well. And the Boot Scoop money provided a Bible for every single camper. We had about 60 campers, and we bought a Bible for every single camper. And it went over so well that we're like, this needs to be done at every teen camp we have. So even before, because I have a ton of people who always tell me, well, I can't come to Texas. Like, I want to help with Boot Scoop. I want to be a part of Boot Scoop, but I don't know what to do. So this year I started a campaign even before the event, Bibles for campers. And it's like the Bibles cost about $35 each. And they are special Bibles. I know someone's like, you can get Bibles much cheaper, but they're the special, like wide margins so you can draw and all that good stuff in them. And I'm trying to raise money for 200 Bibles. That's awesome. We were able to do that. So every teen camper will get a journaling Bible this year. And then also we have money left over that we can provide supplies for that class. And I called each camp director beforehand, and I talked to Ken Trebek, who's over all the camps. And I said, if I'm able to do this so that it doesn't cost you any money, would you be willing to add Bible journaling, a Bible class to your curriculum, to your calendar or schedule? And so they're like, if you can do it. And I was like, I will get it done. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. And so it's basically that class is you're kind of teaching them how to write notes on the side and like do art and things like that, and just giving different tips and tricks, right?
Right. We kind of go over, my whole focus was that there are different learning styles, and how you memorize information or learn information and retain information may be completely different than how I do it. You know, there's some people who can go and sit and listen to a sermon and not take the first note, but can recite it back to you verbatim afterwards. I am not like that at all. I do not learn well like a lecture style. I need visual. I have to learn visual. So when I take notes, I'm drawing pictures and, colors and everything. And because I was explaining to the kids about how I learned that in high school. Like that's how I would study. I would highlight things. And then when I would go to take a test, I would literally like close my eyes and picture in the book where I highlighted, the anatomy of a cell, and I would be able to recall it. And then I'm like, oh, well, why am I not doing that in my Bible study? And I was well into an adult before I made that correlation. And now it's just like scriptures and points and Bibles. And it's so funny because last night someone was talking to me and I was like, oh, I've got a note in that about my Bible, or I got a note in that in my Bible. And I went looking for it visually. I could not remember what scripture it was, but I knew what it looked like. So I'm flipping through my Bible and then I found a picture. They're like, how'd you find that so quickly? Because I'm visual.
Yeah.
And we really want our teens to realize it's okay if you learn differently. It's okay. And then also for some people who take very traditional, like bullet list notes, that's fine too. The important thing is that you are learning God's word. You're studying God's word, you're retaining God's word, and you're able to recall God's word.
Mm-hmm.
So figure out the way that's best for you. And in this Bible, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see their minds, because you would have someone very like analytical, and he was making like and then the guy next to him for the armor of God like drew a full-blown, battle scene. And it was amazing. And I bring up two young gentlemen because I think a lot of people were surprised that the campers that got into it most were the boys. Like they really got into it. So, and I was excited because I don't think something like this is provided, or they're not exposed to it maybe anywhere else. So I'm happy that we're able to do that at camp.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I agree. I think usually people think of that as more as like maybe a female thing for some reason.
Right.
So I love that it's encouraging people to just kind of try new things and also just be confident to write in your Bible. I think a lot of times there's like this fear of writing notes in the side. And like I've personally bought Bibles and been like, oh, I'm totally gonna journal. And then whenever I go into it, I feel so nervous. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to ruin God's word. Like, what if I mess up? What if he, like, I don't know, it's so silly and it's so irrational, but it's like, it is so nice to have someone who can like direct you and say, hey, like, this is okay. This is part of the learning process.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I am such a perfectionist personally that it was a hard thing for me to learn. And that is one thing that I do cover in the class is I show them where I messed up and how I fixed it. I was like, look, see it back here. And this is how I fixed it. That was such a life lesson for me. It's like, it's okay that it's not perfect. Learn from it and then just go forward.
Yeah.
And there are still some, like they still struggle with, I don't want to write. And they practice on paper first and like, but they'll get to it. The thing that's been so rewarding for me is for parents to reach out to me, and they still do. Camp was in August and they still reach out to me to show, they send me pictures. They tell me, hey, my daughter sat down this Sabbath morning and she wrote all this stuff out. Or there's a woman who said, her son came from school and he had an hour where he was supposed to be doing his homework. And she went up there and she looked and he was actually writing in his Bible. She's like, I can't about that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I think it's just such a important thing. I never want money to be the reason that someone's not exploring their Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a really neat avenue to teach young people to really own their faith, because there's a self-expression, like you said, like you kind of figure out your learning style. And then the more you feel like you can connect to God, the way that you can not, because I think sometimes we struggle with, okay, well, there's this one way of connecting to God, like I just have to kneel and I pray and I just read the word and fast sometimes, and I'm supposed to feel real connected to him. That doesn't work for everybody. There's so many different ways that people need based on who you are, your personality, your background, that you can connect to God. Like for me, I pray the best when I'm walking, like, and talking out loud and just talking to God like a friend. I don't do well when I'm just sitting there kind of on my knees because my mind just goes into a million different places. It's so funny. And so things like this, it's like it just kind of opens up that door for young people to say, hey, like this is another avenue. And that could even just kind of be the start of exploring, okay, how can I connect to God in the best way that is still brings glory to God? You're not going to do something that's like totally out there, but like in a way that makes sense for you.
Right. I mean, you can still be reverent, but and that's another thing. Because I have received some negative feedback from some people, like you should not be painting in your Bible. Well, this Bible was specifically created with paper to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And why not?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am very aware that it is the word of God. Um, but again, like I was saying, if someone is able to illustrate something in their Bible
Mm-hmm.
that helps them connect with that word and hang on to that word, then why not?
Yeah.
I don't think it's disrespectful. They're not scribbling.
Mm-hmm.
It's them connecting to God.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
It's such a great idea. I just love that program, and um, just the Boost Scoot in general has just been
Mm.
such a really cool thing to watch myself, because I'm pretty sure I've attended every single one from the very beginning, because my dad is in that band that Kelly originally hired, and now I'm in that band. So it's really neat to just witness the growth that the Boost Scoot has gone through, and now seeing it as a place not only to benefit the campers, but as a place to benefit, the people who go, and encouraging cross fellowship and love, and just friendship between people who are all trying to do things for a good cause, for thinking outside of themselves, and kind of letting those boundaries down a little bit is really, it's so special to be able to have an event like that.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll be honest, it's um, it, it's a labor of love.
yeah,
It's a lot of work that
yeah.
goes into it. My parents put so much effort in behind the scenes that people just really don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get everything organized, and I am having to rely on more and more people. Please help me. Please help me. Please help me.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's wonderful. It's great. But I will be honest. And, when we took a break for COVID, I was like, oh, whew, that was nice this year. And then we actually was 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, maybe Boots Goose just had its run.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it just has. I had so many people reach out to me. When's Boots Scoot? When's Boots Scoot? When's Boots
Mm-hmm.
Scoot? Okay. So my parents, I'm like, I think we're going to have to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. We came back in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just, it's one of those things where you're going up to it. There's so much work involved. And then you get there the night of, and you see so much joy on
Mm-hmm.
everyone's faces, and just being together. Then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, we're going to have to do this again.
It's almost like a wedding, like there's all this prep and all of this stress, and then you get there and you're like, okay, it was worth it.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, and you could totally edit this out, but my dad has told me before. He's like, Kelly, I think that you should get married at Boot Scoot. I'm like, why? He said, because you've got food, you've got the band, you've got a party, all your friends are already there. It's perfect. And I'm like, yeah.
You just show up in a cute little white dress with some cowgirl boots. Hey, no one will know the difference. Just have someone up on the stage. We'll take a break from the band, and
Plenty of ministers there. Yeah.
it's amazing. I love it. Your dad's the best. So, kind of on that vein, you kind of talked about the challenges a little bit, but maybe go into that a little bit more. Like, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you've experienced in putting together an event like this?
Well, because the majority of the money is raised from a silent auction, it's getting silent auction items.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it's like a fundraiser. So you want to get the most money possible. So you want to have, I feel a pressure to have the biggest, greatest items.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have people will tell me, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, I want to bid on this. I want to bid on that. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, let me see if I can get that Kendra Scott piece, different things like that. And before COVID, it was very easy to get items from corporations, and they love to make donations because my family and I probably should explain this earlier. The event is hosted by my family, and we have registered our own nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So the event, every donation that is made is tax deductible because we're our own nonprofit. And so it's able to get donations because it's a tax write-off. But after COVID, people, the economy is completely different. So people are hanging on a little bit better to things. They're only given to certain groups. So it's been a little bit more challenging to collect auction items, but we work on it all year long.
Yeah.
It's almost April, but we just got an item yesterday. We're already working on 2025. And we did have a storage building. Now I have like a whole room in my home that is dedicated just to Boot Scoot.
That's awesome.
And then as the event has grown, you need more manpower. So, I did only need one person running the bake sale table. Now I need 2 or 3. And as like the Kitty Corral was such a great addition to the event, except when you have 8 to 10 games, that means you need 8 to 10 people to run those games.
Yeah.
In addition to the person who's selling tickets, and then the prize table, which this year that was like one of the things, like, okay, how can we do this? How can we better this next year? Because it got a little crazy at the prize table. So just getting the manpower.
And how do you go about like recruiting for that specifically? Like, how do you get people in to volunteer for those specific things?
In the past, it's been Kelli on Facebook begging for help from her for coming to the event. So like, please help me. But we do make announcements at church. And then also, probably for the last, I would say, the first event we did it was 2017. The COG FI class, the entire class has stepped in and helped. When I was in McKinney, they were able to help me more, organize everything, because there's a lot of administrative stuff with the auction too. All the auction items are numbered, they're entered into a system, then you have bid sheets, and they help me organize all of that. Since I no longer live in the area, the FI students come out and help me the day of the event. Or the day before the event. So the event is always on a Saturday night, and we set up on Friday. And so that class comes in. In addition, we have volunteers from the Dallas and Fort Worth congregations who come in and help us set up, who decorate and just carry in boxes. And we have to rent there's so much stuff. We rent a U-Haul to bring it in. And then, so we unload everything and then they set it up. So I've been very pleased. This year's setup went so quick because we had so many people. I would rather have too many people. And like I did at one point, I was like, okay, 12 of you can go home. I would rather have too many people than not enough, because we have there when there's 5 people who are setting up 300 auction items. And it takes a while, and
it's rough. Yeah. And just for those who don't know, FI is Foundation Institute, which is COG was like yearly Bible class kind of course that they go through. It's kind of like a 9-month program, if I recall. And so, and that's local to the Dallas Fort Worth area, which the Boot Scoot is in that area. So it's perfect that you recruited. Oh, then you're like, hey, you have no choice.
They were great. I approached the FI instructors well in advance and asked them, could you cancel classes that Friday afternoon, and can I have your class? They, because they know how much the camp program benefits from it, and it's a service project for them. So they were able to do it. And they have actually, David Johnson asked me if I would be willing to come give a presentation to the FI class. So I've done that several times where I go and I present to the class about the event, what the event, kind of similar to this podcast, what the event does, who it's for, and then how can you do this in your local congregation for your local church area?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say are like the main components of planning and executing a successful fundraising event, kind of like the Boot Scoot, for someone who's might be kind of interested and has an idea?
So you need to know what you're raising money for. You're not just raising money. What are you raising money for? Because when you go out and you're asking for donations, people are going to want to know. Mm-hmm. And then also, if you're passionate about it and you believe in it and they see you believe in it, they're more likely to give to you because they're going to want to support you. And I know when I post like on Facebook, oh, hey, I'm collecting Bibles, or I need this, or I need that, people know how much I care about it. So they want to help you. People want to help. They want to be included. They want to be involved. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so know what you're raising money for, and then kind of organize, where you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, what components. You don't have to have a raffle. You don't have to have a silent auction. You could just have, I actually helped a nonprofit here in the local East Texas area. They have an annual fundraiser. They had never had a silent auction before. And I helped them institute that for the last 2 years. Their silent auction is 20 items. It's very, compared to what I do with Boot Scoot, okay, it's small. It's very successful for them because they get very high quality items. And then if, let's say you do a silent auction, use every resource you have to, okay, who has a service, who makes a product, that sort of thing, who's willing to give. And a lot of people, if it is a tax write-off, people are happy to do that. But most of the time, like I said, people just want to help. So just say, hey, this is what I'm doing, or, this is what I believe in, and they will help you. And then the manpower to pull it all off. And you're always going to need more people than you think. I've learned that the hard way.
I love it. So kind of continuing on with that kind of thought, what advice would you give to whether it's one person, like an individual, or maybe like an independent church congregation or something like that, and they're interested in organizing kind of a similar event in their local communities? What advice would you tell them from someone who has been organizing an event like this for so long?
To be organized. To definitely be clear in your plan and your intentions. We actually did something similar in our local congregation many years ago. We needed some sound equipment, and it wasn't in our budget, but we really needed it. So we had a local spaghetti dinner, and it was great because a bunch of women in the congregation got together and cooked 20 pots of spaghetti. And then we sold tickets, and, we made it affordable. Know your audience. That's another thing. Know your audience. And I think tickets were like $10 to attend. And so we had everyone donate a pot of spaghetti. They attended the event. And then we had like a little silent auction, and like every family donated one item. But you had plenty of items. But you have someone who's coordinating it, and then you have your volunteers, and kind of like at church, you have like your different department heads, things like that. You don't want to get too many cooks in the kitchen, but you need your chef, your sous chef, your dishwasher. You need all those people, and just know that you're all working towards the same goal. You're not in it for any kind of recognition. You're all working towards the same goal.
Yeah, I love that. So what would you say is like your vision for the Boot Scoot, like long term going forward? What do you see? Like,
it's a great question. Many people have asked me that, and I really don't know. Because like I said, every year I'm like, this is our last year. This is our last year. But it's I would like to have more activities so that it's not there are some people who just love ribs and dancing, and that's great. But like this year, our music was a little different. Rather than have one band, we had two bands, and we had a DJ, and by our lovely Chantel's our DJ. And I've gotten so much feedback where people loved the variety of music. They loved the format. They loved how it switched in and out. So I was like, okay, I think I definitely need to do that again. And like I said, our kitty thing needs to grow. We also have a photo booth, but like next year, I'm going to build a really great backdrop. And we have had a backdrop, custom backdrop in the past, but I wanted to change it up a little bit because we've had a photographer every year, and you see the photos, and they're it is kind of fun though to see people grow, like especially where you'll see like a couple come in and the wife is pregnant, and then the next year behind the same backdrop they have the baby. I love that. So I may actually put that backdrop up just for that continuity. But one of my favorite things to do is go into people's houses and see their Boot Scoot photos on their fridge or framed on their wall. I just love that.
Yeah.
But I love it that people love to get together. And so like I said, we're going to hang out in Grapevine a little bit. They're going to remodel. We're going to see if they can fit our needs. But I have thought about going to a bigger venue and opening it up because like right now it is only announced in Kagwa churches. My family, we will send out invitations to our friends that we have in United, CGI, CGA, I post on Facebook. So I'm friends with a ton of people in different organizations on Facebook. But someday, I think it would be cool to announce it and it have the capacity. I can't do that now. I can't do that now because I don't have the capacity for it. So, my dad has joked around. He's like, we should get AT&T Stadium. And I'm like, I mean, they do have meeting rooms there. When you have 500 people, when you have 1,000 people, then it's like the feast, then it's like you really do have, there's more people involved, more volunteers involved. And I'm totally open to suggestions from anyone who's ever attended the event. That's how the Kitty Corral came to be. Because somebody said, hey, we need something for the kids. So I love to make it better and a little bit bigger as, stretch goals.
I love that. So kind of to just end it, I'm curious, do you have a specific memory or something that comes to mind that maybe happened at the Boot Scoot or maybe something after that just kind of makes all of the work and time worth it for you?
I will say, should I tell you, me, I'm getting emotional. This year, we gave 2 scholarships to 2 campers to attend camp. And we gave that directly. Just the way that it all fell together, we gave those directly. And those campers actually came to my camp. So I was able to meet them, get to know them. Wonderful kids, just great kids. I really enjoyed it. And they're in another state. And their entire family came to Boot Scoot this year. And they came and loaded up at the auction. They bought so much stuff and did everything. And I love to see that. I love to see when you give to someone how to come back. Like they come and now they're passing it on. They're paying, so to speak. I love to see that. I love to, or you will hear stories. People tell me things about a camp, like, oh, this is so cool. Like we did this, and this at camp. And they were able to do that because we gave them the money for that activity. Someone told me about this great dinner that they had at their camp. And it was so nice, Sabbath night. Well, we financed that entire dinner. And they don't know that, and they don't need to know that. Things like that remind me, okay, you got to do this again. When I was at Winter Weekend this year, a camper came running up to me, and she was like, oh, Miss Kelli, I got to show you my Bible. So she's got her Bible, and she's showing me all these things. And so her grandmother walks up, and she introduces me to her grandmother, and her grandmother tells me, she's like, she's got 3 other Bibles at home that she won't touch. But this Bible, she's all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you did to teach her to get into this Bible, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's that sort of thing. That reminds me, yep, I got to keep doing this. I
Yeah.
have to, because it does make a difference
Mm-hmm.
when you see kids who are able to go to camp, um, or the things that the money has provided. When you see that it has, made an actual difference,
Mm-hmm.
that is inspiration to keep going.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of the
Thank
things, Kelly.
you.
You're just so lovely and so full of passion. And I'm just so grateful to have you as a friend and that you came on to talk about this today. And yeah,
Thank you very much for having me. It is an event that is very near and dear to mine and my parents' heart. We work really hard on it, and it's just a way for us to serve our brethren.
Mhm.
So, and I'm happy to talk about it anytime.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.